topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Well, good afternoon. Glad you could join us. You know, ever since Al Gore came out with the inconvenient truth, or the convenient truth, well, inconvenient truth, right? And got all this, laud and praise, and created a whole new industry, the climate industrial complex. It's like we've been deluged with anti-science, and which has been kind of, the theme of so much of our government. You know, who do we trust? What can we trust? And when it comes to climate, then you realize as you go and you pull back the curtain on these climate scientists and realize, like the old saying, just follow the money. And you realize that they're making statements because that's what they're paid to do. They've really sold themselves out at the detriment of we, the people here in America, and not only here in America, but around the world. Anyway, along the way, Gregory Wrightstone came into my orbit, and he and I have been in constant discussion over the years. I think probably like about 15 years, it seems. And Gregory is a geologist and executive director of the CO2 Coalition in Arlington, Virginia. Is best-selling author of A Very Convenient Warming, How Modest Warming and More CO2 Are Benefiting Humanity. He's also written other books, and we're going to talk about that as well. But right now, I want to bring on Gregory Wrightstone on the show. Gregory, great to have you with us. How are you?
Oh, good. Really, really busy though, I got to tell you, and it's good. I'm not complaining.
Right.
We being the CO2 Coalition are deep in the midst of pushing back and being very successful about promoting the true science and the facts about climate change and the benefits of warming and more CO2. And I couldn't be pumped. It's our people and our members are proud of what we're doing, and thanks to people like you, Bill, for helping us get our message out.
Well, Gregory, everything about our show is about in the pursuit of truth, as you know, no matter where it leads. And this is why you and I came together, because, I realized early on the faux science that was put upon us, just like what we went through in COVID. And this has all been a culmination of this, which has, been injurious to science. I mean, we need science to ask questions and be allowed to ask questions, and not to be bought and sold and start presenting a bunch of propaganda that causes us to spend trillions of dollars. And then also, as if that's not enough, let's just assume a bunch of guilt and be liable for third world countries to help them get out of their climate crisis, right?
Yeah, it is. And I'm just last week, I gave a lecture to the Irish Science Climate Foundation. And pardon me. That one came on suddenly. But I gave a talk. The title was using scientific or science and the scientific method to fight climate change disinformation by scientific societies, government institutions, and the Papal Advisory Committee. And it really was an analysis of everything we're doing in fighting this thing. Particularly today is the last day to submit comments for the EPA endangerment finding. And we might want to just talk a little bit about what that is.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So in 2009, the EPA under Obama set a regulation controlling emissions from vehicles, light duty trucks, of CO2 emissions. And they decided that and claimed that CO2, carbon dioxide, was harmful to human health, and by that they could regulate it. And boy, have they! And it's called the endangerment finding, because CO2 is endangering Americans' health. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. It's a huge benefit, but they didn't look at any of the positive aspects, and they looked at completely fabricated, made up climate crises that they linked to CO2.
Mhm.
And so we've already filed one comment on Friday. It was based on a paper we've just revised by Wes Allen from Australia, Climate Change and Human Health,
Mhm.
cataloging how health has been improving significantly, not declining. I'll be filing a second comment later today.
Mhm.
And what we're going to do is in this, we're pushing back against this notion of CO2 driven calamities, crises, and harms to human health. So we've been busy doing that, and we've got our senior legal advisor leading the legal analysis. And what we've done too, what he's done is there were in 2024 last year in June, there were two really important Supreme Court decisions. The first one was it overturned what's called Chevron
Right.
deference,
Yeah, right.
which
Exactly.
is where if it's to the court and they're reviewing whether a regulation could be appealed or enacted, that they give deference to the regulatory agencies, because those regulatory agencies, they say, they should be the experts, and they
Right.
should, but they're not. And
Mhm.
the regulatory agencies are given deference because they should have looked at everything, but they haven't. And they recognize that, and they removed that deference for the regulatory agencies. The second
Well,
Supreme
hang
Court is
on just a
actually,
second, Gregory. Pause you there for just a second. I want the audience to catch that. The fact that the Supreme Court ruled on that, to me, that's just a huge red flag, saying, here we've yielded under the Chevron Act, we've yielded to these regulatory agencies, and now we're looking at the results and saying we're not getting the value that we anticipated from that, and they've overstepped, have they not?
yeah, well, actually, what they said was that the regulatory agencies did not look at all of the pertinent information. So they did not review the materials, and in some cases, outright lied to the courts. They presented false and misleading information, disinformation, misinformation, and it's hurt the American public. The results. But the day before that ruling was another one called Ohio versus EPA. And
Mhm.
then they looked at what we call the State Farm defense. And in that, the Supreme Court said that uh, regulatory agencies have to look at all of the data. Anything that's raised, when regulatory agencies like EPA or Department of Transportation,
Mhm.
Department of Energy, whenever they propose a regulation, they propose it, and then there's a period of a couple of months, maybe 6 weeks, where people can comment on it.
Right.
And this ruling in the State Farm, they said that uh, these regulatory agencies need to consider all pertinent data. Any of the comments that are made with relevant, significant information or a significant line of thought, the agency needs to consider that. Well, they never did. They only looked at any information that helped their case and
Right.
never presented or looked at things that were opposed to them. And here they say you have to. And this is really important for us in our comments, again, particularly the comment I'm filing today on this endangerment finding uses that State Farm defense, where we're
Mhm.
going through and we're saying if you imposed a law or a regulation in this case and didn't consider everything, it's on its face unlawful and
Exactly.
it needs to be repealed. And so that's the gist of our filing that we'll make later today. And
And the
it's
thing that's so frustrating about that, Gregory, I'm sorry to, I just, again,
no, go ahead.
I'm listening as our audience is listening on this, and they're probably getting frustrated and saying, wait a minute, we're being sold, a bucket of goods here. And meanwhile, by the time this goes through the process, we're 4 or 5 years down the road. We've been told all these lies. How do you remedy, all the lies and the cost to the American taxpayer, where you've got regulators doing things that now, 5 years later are determined to be unlawful?
Yeah, and think about this. Let's think about all of your listeners or viewers right now. You're probably sitting in the comfort of your own home, maybe your office when you're looking at this. Look around you. Every appliance, everything using electricity or hot water has now have significant regulations imposed on it because of this endangerment finding and other rules like it. And you look above you, your ceiling fan above you
Mhm.
has been regulated last year. Your dishwasher, your washing machine, your dryer, you name it. Incandescent light bulbs were banned. And so what the government's done is say, well, we're going to impose these regulations, let's say on dishwashers, and dishwashers today, when you buy a modern dishwasher today, you can't buy a really good dishwasher. By that, I mean one that can get the dishes washed in 30 minutes. Uh, Today's dishwashers go anywhere from 2.5 to 4 hours per cycle.
Wow.
And it's because they're very low energy,
Mhm.
and it's very low water. It just takes a long time. And what we find too, because it's low energy, they're using smaller motors that burn out quick. These small motors are being asked to do more, so they burn out and need replaced more often. And so what they say is this is a high efficiency dishwasher, and it's the best for you because you're gonna save money, use less electricity, less water. Well, Bill, their definition, the government's definition of efficient dishwasher is a lot different than my wife's. My
Right.
wife, her definition of an efficient dishwasher is one that'll get it done in 30 or 40 minutes or less, and the
Right.
dishes are clean.
Mhm.
And you can't buy those today. The government's saying you're only allowed to buy what we have approved, and which is a government approved dishwasher, or all of these other things. They're telling you what you can drive, or they've been trying to, what you can drive,
Mhm.
how to heat your home, what temperature to heat or cool your home. It's crazy the overreach of these regulatory agencies.
Well, this is an
And
infringement on our freedoms, Gregory.
it is. And when I tell you, bear with me when I'm pro-choice. I'm strongly pro-choice, and by that I mean your viewers and listeners should have the choice of what to buy, what kind of dishwasher, washing
Mhm.
machine, you name it. They should have the choice to be able to buy a shower head that doesn't have a flow restrictor, so the water just dribbles out. I bought a new shower head when I moved into my new home,
Mhm.
and it was a dual head. My son-in-law came down. He says, "Let me look on that." And there were 3 flow restrictors on that daggone thing. He knocked them out, and
Uh,
man, the water comes out like Niagara Falls now. It's a wonderful shower.
right.
And it's things like that. They have to control every aspect of our lives. We've had our freedom systematically taken away from us, and we're just willing sheep going along with it. Well, no more,
Yeah.
no more. We're going to rise up. We're going to do it. And this all really came to a head on January 20th with the inauguration of Donald Trump, when he
Mhm.
brought in his people at Energy, at Interior, at EPA, and others, Lee Zeldin, Chris Wright, Doug Burgum. They're pulling back on this, and they're going great guns. So kudos to them. I talked with Steve Koonin not too long ago, who's the author of um, uh, I'm struggling to think of his book. I'm sure you know it.
Mhm.
It's but he and Will Happer and I he said, feels like we've had a strong headwind.
Mhm.
We're facing strong headwinds in our battle. Um, and he says now it feels like the wind's at our back. And so it's a wonderful thing, and we're moving forward. The name of his book is it's back behind me. I know it's on my shelf.
Is it? It's not unsettled, right? No,
Unsettled,
it is.
wonderful
Okay.
book. Yeah, it
Right.
might be the second best book on, or third best book on climate change that's been written in the last 15 years. Of course, number one would be Inconvenient Facts. Number
Yeah.
two, A Very Convenient Warming, and then
Yeah.
probably Unsettled. But I'm
Right.
biased. Who knows? I'm
Well,
biased.
you've been fighting the battle out there, for it seems decades, and thank God, because there had to be some pushback because unfortunately, with these progressive governments, Obama, Biden continued, of course, the course there, And, we have been lied to and somehow, again, indoctrinated on this misinformation regarding climate. And, thank God for, groups like yours and what the CO2 Coalition has been doing in bringing the facts against this misinformation, Gregory.
Yeah, and we're seeing some real results. We see it uh, every day. When I talk to regular people that nobody's that's affiliated with, just regular Joe and James,
Mhm.
the guy or gal sitting next to me on an airplane that's trapped next to me for 2.5 hours, but they're thirsty for this information we can
Yeah,
bring to them, and I think people are really open, and we're going to find out more. We've created two 60-second ads that just finished. I'm just starting fundraising for those. I want to try and I'd like to find someone, a well-heeled individual that's willing to recognize the power of a
mhm,
national ad campaign showing these wonderful 60-second ads. I want to run it on broadcast TV, streaming services,
mhm,
and get this information out there that most people don't know that
mhm.
increasing carbon dioxide and modest warming are having great benefits to crop production increases. Deserts are shrinking, forests are expanding, vegetation's increasing, lifespans are expanding, lengthening. Crop, uh, the growing season for crops has
Mhm.
increased nearly 2 weeks since 1900. These are all great things,
Exactly.
and we need people to understand what this is.
Well, you got to make sure you get those ads to me. I'd like to have them, and I'll run them on our show and
Yeah,
get you
we're
some exposure
uh,
here.
yeah, I can't do it yet. I want to
No,
wait.
when it's ready, because again, it goes hand in glove with what we're about in terms of getting the truth out there.
Yeah,
I think it's quite interesting because when I observe what's happening in the culture and how people when they bring up climate change, it's not being brought up with such passion as it was even 5 years ago.
no, they're running away from it. They are running away from it. Their big funding sources are gone. Wind and solar facilities are being defunded right and left. Seems like every day there's another either EV manufacturer that's folded up. We hear of one car manufacturer after another pulling out and not even going forward with their planned electric car
Exactly.
development, wind turbine development offshore, particularly vineyard wind. We're still fighting the one in offshore Virginia
Mhm.
that's funded and pushed hard by Dominion Energy. Dominion Energy wants it because they're a utility,
Right.
and they don't care. They don't care what their costs are because they're guaranteed a fixed percent income.
Mhm.
And so actually the more money they spend, the more money they make, which is
Right.
completely ludicrous. People don't know that.
Right.
So we're seeing it too across America. People pushing back against carbon dioxide pipelines. They've got this crazy notion of carbon capture and sequestration, where they're going to spend huge amounts of money to capture CO2 from the atmosphere, and then not truck it, move it through pipelines across America's heartland to be pumped down wells. They're removing a beneficial molecule at high cost. It's actually going to be harmful to our environment, not
Mm. But
beneficial.
where's the science on that?
Well, they can do it. There are ways to capture CO2,
No, no, but
and
I mean, in terms of the benefit, I mean, because anything
there is none.
supposedly that goes along with the, environment, you got to do all these environmental studies and everything. Where are those studies to support that move?
Oh, no, you don't. That's only if you're an oil and gas or coal company. If you're one of these renewables, if you're associated with renewables, well, don't worry about that report. We just saw that in the Vineyard Wind, where Donald Trump, Doug Burgum shut them down because they hadn't uh, fulfilled all their required investigations, and they were
Mhm,
being left going ahead to build it. Uh, and so this, for example, let's say we're going to capture carbon from a coal-fired electricity generation plant.
mhm,
To install that material, the carbon capture will cost about a billion, just under $1 billion for each plant. It would, what the goal, of course, is to remove CO2 from the atmosphere. Uh, and what it does, it's energy intensive. So it would cost $1 billion, and it would require 24% of the energy that's produced from that plant to run the capture to do that. And it's so wrong on so many levels. And then they got to build this infrastructure to pipe the CO2 uh, to wherever they're going to pump it down underground, hoping it doesn't come out to the surface. And one of the problems with CO2 and steel is it makes steel brittle, so it's more likely to rupture.
Right.
Which is, CO2's, again, it's not a pollutant, but it in very high concentrations of tens of thousands of parts per million, it can actually, since you're not able to get enough oxygen, you die from, as I don't know if it was asphyxia or whatever, from lack of oxygen.
Right.
And we see that with in USDA particularly has stringent regulations because they use dry ice for a lot of their cooling for food. And dry ice, what is dry ice, you might ask? Frozen carbon dioxide. And so as dry ice warms up, it sublimates. So it doesn't go from CO2 to a CO2 liquid. It goes directly from a solid, which is dry ice, to the gaseous form of CO2. And if you're in an enclosed area working on green beans or poultry or whatever, and this dry ice can accumulate to very high levels quickly. And so they have to have warnings and things like that. So the USDA in particular has looked at this. But again, we're nowhere near. We're at 400 parts per million now. According to OSHA, we can safely have up to 6,000 or 8,000 parts per million in the workplace environment, which is 20 times what it is today.
Right. Let me ask you this, in terms of their desire to get CO2 out of the environment, is that even possible?
No. They can try to remove, and they can remove a little bit of it, but it would have to be a massive amount to be tens of trillions of dollars. But what they are doing is there's actually discussions now about geoengineering, putting sulfates into the atmosphere to block the sun. Well, we were doing that with coal-fired power plants for free. The coal-fired power plants were putting the sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. Remember acid rain? That was a real thing.
Right.
That was a real thing. And we've cleaned it up. We've prevented it from going into the atmosphere from coal-fired power plants at great cost. And now they want to do it intentionally. So they're making acid rain great again, I guess.
Yeah. That's just insane. And on your book now, let's talk about a very convenient warming that people are talking about, and it's more of what you've been sharing with us, but just I guess is giving us a better understanding of all these things that we've been lied about. And what we're finding out is the things we've been lied about really are the beneficial aspects of our environment.
Yeah, just like my first book, which was Inconvenient Facts, I wrote both of these for the non-scientist. So many people have told me what a wonderful read it is. I picked it up and hardly put it down. It was really entertaining, well written, informative, well researched. I've got great charts throughout that are easily understandable. And so I dive into one of my favorite subjects, is the strong relationship between human history and climate history. And so the book is divided into three sections. First, number one is what's actually going on with CO2 and temperature and that. And the second part is this section on human history. And we find that going back to the first great civilizations that arose during what was called the Minoan warm period, it was the Bronze Age. It was a time of much, much warmer temperatures than today. Life was good. All the first great empires and civilizations rose up: the Hittites, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Harappan Empire and the Indus River Valley. These all grew up. Food was bountiful, life was good, and then it started getting cold. And within a very short period of time, all of those empires collapsed because, along with the cold, came crop failure, famine, pestilence, and mass depopulation. And that led to what was called the Greek Dark Ages. It was called the Dark Ages because we really don't know a whole lot about it, because with the failure of these empires, not many of the scholars survived that were writing down histories. And so it's a dark period of human history. And it didn't get better to the Roman warm period, the time of Christ. And then at the end of that, we saw again cold, crop failure, famine, pestilence, mass depopulation led to the Dark Ages. And then the most recent warming period, again, was warmer than today, was a medieval warm period, which lasted until it started getting really cold, which led to the Little Ice Age, which was probably the coldest period of the last 10,000 years. And life was really bad during that time.
Is this a natural cycle of the earth that it goes through, where you get warming and cooling it's just the way God designed it to operate this way?
It appears to be. The last several have been separated on about 1,000-year cycles, because the medieval warm period was about 1,000 years ago. It was around 850 to 1250 AD, and of course the Roman warm period was the year zero, around there, several centuries. So it's about 1,000-year cycle between warm periods. And the warm period that we're in today, again, think of all the great things that are associated with this, since we started warming coming out of this Little Ice Age. Just tremendous benefits that have accrued. And so what we're seeing too, and then the third section of the book is associated with the cover of the book. You showed it. I've got a woman with her arms raised, standing in a field of sunflowers, just joyous. And it's reflective of just that we should celebrate the benefits. It's the first book I wrote, again, Inconvenient Facts, I explored that there is I proved conclusively with lots of work that there is no climate crisis, but we've gone beyond that now. That not only is there not a climate crisis, but in fact, man, by almost every metric we look at, Earth's ecosystems are thriving and prospering, and humanity is benefiting from the combination of warming and more CO2. There's no doubt about it. The best metric would be vegetative growth. It's called the greening of the earth. We're seeing that from the near polar regions to the equator, every ecological niche has huge increases in vegetation. And one of the things we can see what's going on, we have really good record. We can figure out what our emissions are of CO2 into the atmosphere. And it's mainly the burning of fossil fuels. And we look at that, only half of our emissions are showing up in the atmosphere. We're emitting it, but only half show up. What's happening to the other half? The other half is going into nature. Most of it's being consumed by increased photosynthesis.
Right.
And so the earth, plants are loving it.
Yeah, exactly.
They are loving it. And if plants could have a vote, they'd be waving their little fronds going, more CO2, more CO2.
Right. Feed me. Yes, exactly.
Me. Yeah. And we're seeing too that, for example, boreal forests in Canada, because of the warming, Dr. Tim Ball documented that boreal forests in Canada moved 100 kilometers northward over the last 100 years because of the warming. And so we've got northern latitudes are seeing increased vegetation it's moving further north in the latitudes. The altitudes are moving higher on the mountainside at higher altitudes. So you'll have to forgive me. Apologies to Jimmy Buffett, but it's changes in latitudes and changes in altitudes.
Right. But eventually it would change your attitude as things, but yes.
Exactly. That's why I
Altitudes
moved here
matter.
to Florida. That's why I moved to Florida.
Right.
I work out on my lanai. I love working outside, and uh, so it's a wonderful environment here. And
Yeah.
warm is good. People like warm. We're creatures of a warm environment,
Mhm.
but because of our use of fossil fuels and other things, we're able to populate just about every um, except for the extreme polar and Antarctic,
Mhm.
we can occupy and survive and thrive in just about every environment.
Well, and what you're showing here is that, as your book says, global warming is saving lives. It's not creating this chaos that some of these mad scientists would want us to believe.
Yeah,
These
exactly.
these climate hustlers, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
that's what I call them because it's like, look at have an opinion, but I would hope that you would have an opinion that would serve the American people, serve the world. Because right now, I mean, you've got the world terribly confused. The United Nations isn't helping us out. World Economic Forum continues on with their disastrous agenda, which has nothing to do for the betterment of the population, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. Global warming saves lives. And when we say that, people's heads explode. You can't say that. Well, yeah, I can. And I can
Yeah,
back it up with documentation. The
right.
largest study of its kind looking at uh, uh, mortality related to temperatures, temperature related mortality, was Dr. Antonio Gasparini and a team of physicians. They looked at 74 million temperature related deaths and found that 20 times as many people die from cold as from heat, which is most people don't know that. They think it's just the opposite. 20 times. A recent study was published in the journal The Lancet, and you could tell the authors, boy, they weren't happy with the results of their study. They found that 10 times as many people die from cold as from heat. And looking at it, they only mentioned that one time. And every time afterwards, they called cold related mortality non-optimal temperatures. Non-optimal temperatures, which
Yeah,
not knowing anything else, you would think, oh, that's probably heat related deaths, but no,
right.
it's cold related deaths. And in fact, they had a chart in the book, and I capture that in my book. Uh, the x-axis for heat related deaths was zero to 250, and the cold related deaths was 0 to 50s. What the chart that they showed falsely expanded heat related deaths by 5 times,
Uh,
and this is just the type of it's scientific malfeasance that we see it
but
time and
it's
again.
something. It's a mathematical insanity that whenever it comes to data, our government comes up with some weird stuff. They can't even count the number of people are employed. I mean, we lose 1 million employees from one administration to the next. Yeah, I mean, it's just COVID and everything we went through. COVID, those numbers are all compromised. And I keep saying, I mean, you're a data expert. I mean, you're collecting data, Gregory. What is going to happen with the 40 years down the road and the scientists that come along and they're looking at the data that the United Nations or even our US government endorsed for many years and it's bogus. What are they going to think?
Well, it's what they're starting to think that now. They're
Yes.
being exposed rapidly, and people are looking at this. It's becoming quite clear that number one, they've all of their predictions that they've made in the past have been incorrect.
Yes.
They've predicted one thing after another, and it hasn't materialized. And so we're finding that their data is and what they're claiming is easily rebutted, easily found falsify. We can
Mhm.
self falsify what they're saying, and that's what we're trying to do here at the CO2 Coalition. And we're hoping too with things like this endangerment finding, it's going to end up at the Supreme Court.
Right.
What's probably going to happen is they're going to again, today's the last day to submit comments, and I'll be doing that later. And they have to take a look at what we've submitted. And
Mhm.
what will probably happen is EPA and Lee Zeldin will look at all the comments, and in 2 months or 3 months, they'll come back and they'll say, well, we've reviewed all the comments. And after reviewing, we've decided that the endangerment finding should be repealed. And we're enacting that the appeal of the endangerment finding and then they'll be sued by one of the climate bedwater groups like the Environmental Defense Fund or whatever, and they'll sue. It'll go to the Fifth Circuit Court of Washington, D.C., which is
Of
pretty
course.
well
Yeah.
stacked with Obama and Biden judges, and the Fifth Circuit will say, "No, you're wrong, EPA. We're going to overturn your ruling," and then the EPA will go back and appeal that decision, and then it ends up at the Supreme Court, where hopefully we will have our day,
Yeah.
and our data will be presented at the Supreme Court at some point. It might be a year and a half or 2 years from now. Who knows? It might be sooner.
Well,
But
Gregory, I'm just hoping we get to that point where you realize all these faux scientists and others, that have promoted this misinformation. I understand, we're still talking about our First Amendment right. That's really, come into the forefront again, which I believe is important. But the thing is our founding fathers, I guess it really, I don't want to say assumed, but I guess they were hoping that when it came to the right of free speech, that people would be responsible, that they would speak in a way that would do no harm. But, people like Al Gore, how much money has he made over the years with all his misinformation? Because you look back at his track record and tell me one thing that Al Gore said and, made a movie for. I think he got an Oscar for it. Tell me one thing that he said that you could hang your hat on and say, thank God for Al Gore and his work on climate.
yeah, you're going to have to give me a minute on that, Bill.
Oh, well, I'll give you all the time you need because I'm asking anybody that question because I want to be fair-minded about this because I believe, look at if you're going to be speaking into the public square, you should have and there should be a code of responsibility to that speech. It's one thing to say, look, I'm opining or whatever, but when you go and you produce such false information that you are enacting policies that's costing the taxpayers an inordinate amount of money, it's like, look at, I want my money back.
Yeah. Well, just one example here is if you go, Lee Zeldin, he hasn't taken this daggone chart down yet. And I've been asking and asking, I've been sending him. If you go to the EPA, if you just search for 2 words, I guess it's actually 3 words, EPA and heat waves, EPA and heat waves, the chart that pops up is this. I think there's 4 or 6 charts that they have this called heat wave index for the United States. Well, it looks terrible. It's just skyrocketing heat wave index going up. It's no such thing. It is absolutely a flat out lie. It is not a heat wave index for the United States.
Is this why Al Gore says the planet is boiling?
It might be. Yeah, they use this. It's called. And what they've done, if you look at it and deep into the text, you find out it's really not a heat wave index for the United States. It's a heat wave index for the top 50 metropolitan areas in the United States. Okay. So the metropolitan areas are heating up significantly, but it has nothing to do with climate change and has everything to do with what's called the urban heat island effect, UHI.
Population density, right?
Well, it's not popular. It's really concrete, asphalt, air conditioning units, trucks, airplane. Some of these, some of the weather stations are near airports, so you can see just when a jet takes off going past the sensor,
right?
And the temperature spikes up. But it's really the inside of these cities can be, they can be 10 to 15 degrees warmer than the surrounding rural areas. Some of the worst. If you can see it for Paris, London, Delhi's one of the worst. Washington D.C. So it's often 10 degrees warmer. It's all false. It's not. It doesn't even do with climate change, and that's how they lie to you. They fail to tell you important information about that, and it's just bad. And one of the other things you're showing a shot here. One of the things I'm proud that we're doing at the CO2 Coalition. My new children's book is called.
Yes,
Chloe.
I'm glad. I want to talk about that, Chloe. Yes.
Yeah, Chloe the clownfish sleeps well. So it's part of our Sleep Well series of children's books. They're science-based. And we had a previous series of 5. These are wonderfully illustrated children's books that are science-based One of the ones that was a favorite was called Simon the Solar Powered Cat. It was about photosynthesis and how Simon, everything he eats is based on photosynthesis. The mice that he chases in the barn and catches and eats are they feed on grains and things like that. And the wonderful little robins he loves so much they also are eating the stuff that photos. And so we use this. We have a senior education advisor in Dr. Sharon Camp, a PhD in analytic chemistry. She was an AP Science teacher and reader. And so she prepares we have lesson plans that go along with them. And we have a website devoted for this. It's called CO2learningcenter.com. CO2 CO2learningcenter.com. You can go get this information, the books for free. These are all provided. That's our mission, is to get these books, provide them to. It's mainly the homeschool community has just loved.
I was going to
what we're
say
doing.
homeschoolers got to be eating this up. Yeah.
Oh, they are. And we provide this information. We provide easily downloadable PDF lesson plans. We have a series of videos as well. In one of the videos, I was the voice of Mr. Fish. And so what was kind of, we have some fun with it. So the artist that resides in Brazil, he put a silver mustache on.
Oh, did he on the fish?
On
Oh
Mr.
my
Fish.
God, I love it.
So it's funny.
Yeah.
But in this book, Chloe the Clownfish, there's a real thing called climate anxiety, where children they can't sleep at night. They're so worried about their future. They don't think they have a future because of man-made global warming. And we tell the story of Chloe that can't sleep at night because she learned in school that that her home and her family were in great danger from global warming, and we're causing it. And we're able to use this to tell the truth about what's actually happening on the Great Barrier Reef and other coral islands. And we find that in fact, the Great Barrier Reef at the end of 2024 had the greatest amount of coral cover that it's had since they began these detailed surveys. So it's actually expanding, and coral cover is expanding. There are different events that cause it to go back. The starfish eat a lot. If there's it's a cyclone down there in Australia. Cyclones can be devastating, tearing apart the corals because a lot of these are fragile. Hurricane Hamish a few years ago went right down, came straight, big Category 5, came straight down along the eastern edge of Australia, along the length of the Great Barrier Reef, and wiped out a lot. I mean, it didn't destroy it, but it broke a lot of the corals off, and it grows back, which is what it's recovering now from that. Right. And the other thing we talk about too, so this is a great way for us to give this info. I collaborated with Dr. Peter Ridd to get the science right for this book from Australia. Our next book is almost complete. It's called Foxy the Fruit Bat Sleeps Well. So it's about a fruit bat that lives on the islands of the Maldives. And Foxy has been told that his home and his family are going to be underwater, and the terrible things will happen. And we're able to tell the story of the truth. And actually, this is interesting, if we have a few minutes, that we're being told that these islands like the Maldives will be underwater in the next couple of decades, the Maldives by 2050. Well, think about this. 18,000 years ago, the Maldives were just as they are today, just above sea level. And in the last 18,000 years, sea level has risen 400 feet. Why, Bill, are these islands not under 400 feet of water?
Yeah,
you might ask.
Yes, exactly.
And so the answers, they're twofold, really. Number one, corals can grow really quickly. They can grow and keep up with even very rapid sea level rise. But how do we get these sands, and how do the islands themselves grow? And that's a geologic process known as accretion. And what happens are these sands and gravels that ring the islands during storms. It's washed up onto the islands, and then winds and critters move it around the islands. It's a slow process, but these islands have all kept up with sea level. And they'll do the same. So what they're telling you is the Maldives Right now, sea level rise is at about 7 inches per century. By 2050, well, the Maldives should experience another 2 inches of sea level rise. So what they're telling you is the last 400 feet of sea level didn't put those islands underwater, but the next 2 inches, look out, they'll be underwater. Does that make sense? No, I can answer
Well,
that
it
for you.
makes sense if it makes sense if I'm getting the United States to pay me for it.
Oh yeah, these guys, they're standing there. The prime minister of the Maldives, he's standing. There's a classic picture of him standing hip deep in water with his hands out, needing billions of dollars of climate reparations.
Right.
Uh, get back in your boat and start fishing. You're not going to be. And the other thing, the Maldives are undergoing construction boom, and so I think there are 24 resort complexes being built, four airports,
Mhm.
and they're all being funded by insured by multinational insurance companies
Right.
that avoid risk like the plague.
Mhm.
Why are they insuring these millions of
If it's going
dollars?
away, yeah,
Right.
I'm waiting to hear if the Obamas are building a mansion there or something. Then you know for sure that you're being worked. We've got about 3 minutes left here, Gregory. We talked about Al Gore. Haven't heard a whole lot about Miss Greta lately. What's going on?
Well, she's gone over to the dark. Well, she was already on the wrong side. Now she's gone over to the dark side. She's a pro-Hamas agitator. She's the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, anti-Israel. So it turns out not only is she a history denier, she's also apparently anti-Semitic,
Yeah, yeah.
anti-Israel. I mean, I don't know, but she doesn't talk much about climate anymore, and
Yeah,
probably for good reason.
yeah, maybe she just spent all her bullets and realized that people weren't giving her place. She wasn't garnering the attention that she was before, right?
Well, she's not 12 years old anymore.
Yeah,
She's now fair game. I think she's 22 or 23. She's
yeah,
an adult, and you know, no need to pull her punches on her.
yeah.
She's an
Well,
uneducated
yeah,
person that knows nothing about climate.
yeah. Whether it's her or the science guy, we mentioned Al Gore again.
Who's not a
Uh,
scientist.
yes, who's not? Yeah, either one of them. And it's just it's just absurd. But I did want to, before we close off here, is remind everybody of my favorite app that you have designed that is available and easy to download. So if you've got questions and you're not immediately around, then your app has just been such a benefit to me, and just being able to have rational conversations. Go ahead.
Yeah, unfortunately, Bill, it's not available for Android users. It was removed about a year and a half ago, and we're not going to be
You
able to
still
get it
haven't
back.
put it back, huh?
No, and I'd like to. You'd like. I don't think it's anything nefarious, but we went through some changes here. I put it together. We created a limited liability corporation with the developer of the app. I did the science, and then I bought him out. It's a free app,
Yes.
but it's a free app, but he it's nothing nefarious on the part of Google. But it's just some technical legal things that's not going to allow us to put. But the good news is I'm creating a new app very similar to this for the CO2 coalition.
Great. Okay.
And but I've got it's on my to-do list, but I got a lot ahead of it.
Yeah. Well, you got a bunch to do, but inconvenient facts, the science that Al Gore doesn't want you to know. 60 inconvenient facts. See, I have my own copy as well.
Well, there you
And
go.
yeah, there you go. I told you, when you told me about it, I put it on right away. It's been with me. So I want our audience. So Apple users, obviously you can have access, but Android's not. For those of you that have Apple, this is brilliant. It's good stuff, that can help balance out the misinformation that we've been bombarded with, whether it's from the United Nations or other interests that are more, it's more about control and power than it is promoting the freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, Gregory Wrightstone.
Yeah, they are. And I'll encourage anyone watching this, you probably learned a few things. And if you want to learn more, go buy my book, a very convenient. If you just search for 2 words, convenient warming, that'll take you right to Amazon or my website. And then Chloe the clownfish, Just search for that, Chloe the Clown. It's $7.
Hey,
Your child, grandchild, great grandchild, it will become his or her favorite book very quickly. It's just wonderfully illustrated in manga style. It's really so $7. Come on, you can
yeah.
afford it. Chloe the Clownfish.
Hey, that's cheap education. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
I
and
can tell you, my grandkids are chewing it up, man. They appreciate it. So,
oh, did you get one for them?
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you
Isn't it
very much.
great?
Appreciate that. Well,
Yeah.
look, we got to leave it there. Gregory Wrightstone. Again, as we wrap things up, remind everybody of the website to be in touch with you. And as we always say on this show, that look, you got to own your own knowledge. What we shared with you, as Gregory said, hopefully it motivates you enough to, check it out for yourself and verify what we're saying, because we can tell you quite clearly. And this is why the other side seems so quiet, whether it's Greta Thunberg or even Al Gore these days, is that look, at America is wising up to the reality and the truth of real science, right?
It is. And the URL for the CO2 Coalition, co2coalition.org, CO2 Coalition. And if you're interested in homeschooling, co2learningcenter.com, co2learningcenter.com. You'll love it. You can you get free books for your grandchildren, your children. Go get it. And we need to educate our children in America and around the world are being indoctrinated into a climate cult. They're being taught groupthink and consensus science. We want to teach them critical thinking skills.
Exactly.
And they need to be able to know the scientific method and what that is.
Right. Well, Gregory Wrightstone, cannot thank you enough. Great job. Appreciate all the great work you've been doing on behalf of we the people in bringing us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but. Gregory Wrightstone, the geologist and climate contrarian for as long as he can be, tells me, the executive director of CO2 Coalition and author of Inconvenient Facts. So we also have his new book, A Very Convenient Warming. And let's not forget about, Chloe.
Yeah.
The clownfish. Appreciate it. Greg, thank you so much for being with us. Take care. Be well, my friend.
All right. Thank you.
Gregory Wrightstone. Hey, and our thanks to you for sharing a part of your day and being a part of the conversation here. And for more information on the show, BillMartinezLive.com. Thank you so much. May God bless you and keep you. May make his face shine upon you. May he be gracious unto you and give you his peace. God bless everyone.